I'm Tom, and I'm really sorry for my sort of prolonged absence for anyone that may have realised. I just had something going on in my personal life that needed addressing, needed seeing to, I need to be on top of it, basically. And I've managed to do that. I've stayed on top of it, and thankfully that is somewhat come to a close. Anyway, now I'm able to get back to doing what I wanted to do, what I enjoy doing, which is making videos. And I really wanted to make a prediction video for Filip Hrgović versus Joyce on the weekend, and I just couldn't get the time to do that. And it's easy to say in hindsight, but I would have said Filip Hrgović to win. I just think Joyce has been overrated for a while, and he's just not got it in him anymore. And I also think Filip Hrgović is overrated. Well, I think he's quite overrated, and I think we're starting to see perhaps that from both of them, as well as a decline, because both of them are declining. I think that sums it up. It's a fight that I can't say I was really excited for. Part of me just thinks certainly Joyce needs to call it. It's a win that propels Hrgović back somewhat into contention, into the mix to some extent, but is the long-term damage he's causing himself really worth that? I don't think so. I wouldn't say it is. And whilst he's entertaining to watch, has some good fights in him, the rapid decline is a real concern to me. And it's not just the manner, it's not just the fact he's losing, it's the manner in which he's losing. It's the manner that he's still swallowing punches left, right and centre. It's the manner in which he's still standing there and receiving quite damaging shots to their head constantly. And look, we watched Filip Hrgović beat him on the weekend, and those punches that Filip Hrgović was able to land, it's not like you couldn't see them coming. You could have seen them coming a mile off. You could have seen those punches coming from a different postcode. The fact he wasn't able to kind of even slightly outmaneuver them, move out the way and defend himself, is a real concern. It's a real concern. And you put him back in there with someone like a current day Daniel Dubois. No chance. Absolutely no chance. And it's the same with the Usyk. Usyk would stop him. Just a punching bag. And you can already see the decline kind of mentally. And you have been able to for a while. And I don't want to sit here and really shit on Joyce, because that's not my intentions. I just don't want to see someone give up their faculties in later life for a bit of money. Because what are you going to spend that money on? And it's a real concern of mine. But, let's move away from that. Credit to Filip Hrgović. He got the win. He can only beat what's in front of him. And that was Joyce. And he was able to beat him quite comfortably, quite soundly, quite rewardedly. Because actually, as I say, now he's going to be looking back in the mix. Now he'll be looking at a Joseph Parker, a Caballero, even a Dubois rematch. Usyk. Now, will he get them? No, I don't think he'll get Usyk. I don't think he'll get Dubois. I don't think he deserves Usyk or Dubois. But a Caballero, a Joseph Parker, yeah. I mean, those two, they need to keep busy whilst Usyk and Dubois are fighting each other. And there's no point those two fighting each other, because actually, there's no point, Caballero and Parker fighting each other, because actually, one of you is going to lose your shot. Hrgović is a good one. He's a keep busy fight. He's one that I'll fancy both of them to win. Parker should beat Hrgović. Caballero should beat Hrgović. He's not got concussive power, so in terms of, look, anything can happen, obviously, but he's not got that concussive power to the point where you'd fancy him to knock you wouldn't be too worried that if you're going to take a couple of punches on him, you're going to get knocked out, which is obviously good, so you're not going to really damage yourself. And it's still pretty high level. You know what I mean? You're not dropping too far down. So perhaps one of those two for him could be next, because I wasn't blown away by either man. I certainly wasn't blown away by Hrgović. So that's certainly something he could look at doing is, something he could look at doing is fighting Parker, Caballero, get a bit of money for it and kind of go from there. I think Hrgović versus Parker, I wouldn't like the fight. I don't think it's going to be particularly fun to watch, but I think it makes sense. Parker needs to keep busy. And that's one that I think he'd fancy. It's the guy that Dubois beat to get his title. So why not? If I'm Parker, I'd look at a Filip Hrgović, and I'd fancy my chances, and I'd fancy that fight. But people don't know your thoughts. What did you think of everything? In the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe. You know how everything works, people. Peace.